So after what seems like an age, I've finally started the Telegraph pole pergola. Now, as you all are probably aware, I've been struggling with my shoulder. Finally today, believe it or not, I've finally gone for the steroid injection. So I'm at this phase at the minute, and it's by no means finished. There's still quite a lot to do to it and still stuff to add to it. But I thought I'll just give you an update because I know some of you have probably been waiting to see what this looks like. And there we are. We've got all the posts up now. I have had to have a little bit of help from my 80-odd-year-old neighbour, Des, who gave up some of his time to help me get those posts in, because it's practically impossible anyway on your own, and especially as I'm having problems with my arm, that was going to prove an impossible task, so he came and helped. However, I did put the tops on myself, believe it or not. I managed to get those up on a ladder and pop them on myself. Now, it isn't perfect, as these things never are, but it's as good as it needs to be. It never needs to be too perfect. People do try to get things absolutely perfect, and actually in another 6 months no one will even notice any of the faults. So there are one or two things wrong with it, and it's generally where the connections are made up there on those joints. They're not perfect, but they never can be. Now remember, each one of these telegraph poles is a different thickness. So this is quite a thick one. Is that quite thick? No, these are the thin ones actually, whereas the one behind it is about the same, but the one at the bottom is quite thick. So you've kind of just got to go with what you can get, and I got hold of, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 plus the 4 tops on this, and I had to sort of rely on what could be supplied to me, and you've just got to take what you can. But I think it looks absolutely superb. I'm ever so pleased with it. As I said, it's not perfect. It's fairly level, but there are some little bits and bobs that I would have hoped would have been better, but they're not. They are what they are, but it looks great anyway. Now remember, this is going to be clothed with climbing plants. And in a minute or two, I'll take you through some of those, what I've already put on. But before they get up to the top there, I need to get on more woodwork. And what I'm going to do is, on the top, I'm either going to go for 2 or 3 what we call half round rails, and they will sit on the top. Now that's going to happen in the next possibly week or so, but that won't happen until I get my van back, because the van, believe it or not, I was broken into, and they took all my tools out of the van, and the van's had to go away for some sort of a repair. So in a week or two, I'm going to be picking up the rails for that, putting them on top. Now at the moment, I'm toying also with putting some of the barbed wire across there as well, because the more things you have for it to run across, the better long term the plant's going to be. So that should look altogether different. Now, the keen-eyed of you may have noticed that I have already dug out the grass. That's gone. And this week I will be ordering some what we call MOT, which is basically an hardcore that will go down there. So it will make this whole section more coherent with what's going on behind it, which is the gravel garden there. So it's basically going to look exactly like that once it's all down. This section's changed as well. Because we're making changes here, I thought I should make this a bit different. It was getting a little bit too skinny, this section. And if you remember, there was 3 of them sections. The other one is that one there, leaning against the tree. You can see it there. I figured over time it wasn't working. And as I say all the time, if it's not working, change it. So I did. I pulled it out yesterday. So that's taken out. So it's a lot easier now to walk down this section, because it was getting a little bit difficult. But now I feel that's working better. So we used another telegraph pole there. We had a spare one that I was given at the time I bought the others. And then we've got little halves that are left from other projects, which is fine as well. Now, the reason they gave me a free one is because this one was damaged. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I absolutely love damage like that on these posts, because it gives it character. And there's 1 or 2 other ones that have got a little bit of damage, but that's what I like, that's what I want to see. So remember, the idea is that we will be coming from up here, which is the gravel garden, and then we will be walking down and through it. So once all the plants do finally get to where I want them, it should look pretty good. Now, the plants I've put in are proper climbers, so we'll go through them and show you what I've actually put in. This one is a wisteria, and this one's a sinensis type. Now this one is called amethyst. I see they've got Caroline on there as well, so I assume when it first came out that's probably what it was called. Now I got this from the Lake District, and the scent was absolutely heavenly, as most wisterias are. Only a small plant. What is that, 5 foot at the moment? You see the tops, I've already clipped the top just to encourage it to get some growth further down so we can get more of this going on. And that's going to take a few years before it gets established up these posts. But the intention is that along with the other 2 plants that I'll show you in a minute, will make the way across here. They will be guided. They will do their thing. They will grow across the tops of these and across the new bits of wood that I will be putting up next week. And over time, it should look absolutely fantastic. So before we forget, before we go to the other plants, the box edge had to be ripped up and completely reset because they were incorrect. Because I was fixed to the tops, it meant that the box edging would be wrong. So I took them all up, replanted them, and they look great now. They're going to look fantastic once they get going properly. So let's go to the second one. This is a rose, and I love roses. Most people love roses, and I do. And this one is a rose called Banksii, and it's called Banksii lutescens. I'm trying to get you down to the label so you can see what I've got, and maybe if you like it, you might want to get that yourself. Now, I'm not so keen on the yellow of the roses. Not my favourite colour. Not anyone's favourite colour, I don't think. But I wanted this rose because it's thornless, or practically thornless. There should hardly ever be any thorns on this rose, I hope. And that's proving true at the moment. So it's a vigorous climber as well. It will really rocket away up these posts here. So hopefully we won't have too long to wait, but I will have to be very mindful to visit it on a regular basis, start tying these up as they get bigger. We'll tie them in and they'll get up there in no time at all. Now the third plant, you'll probably know as, it's called the chocolate vine is its common name. I've not had the chocolate vine for some 15 years, but decided here I had the space for it because chocolate vines can become quite big. And this is called Akebia quintifolia. And it's just starting with some leaves. I'm trying to focus in for you. As you know, I'm always trying to focus in. It never does focus. It's a nightmare at times. But anyway, the light's not great at the minute. So that is tiny in comparison to the other 2. Just 2 single stalks. Again, I'm going to have to train it. I'm going to have to get it going up here like this. That'll end up being trained up there, and that should look good over time. And as I says, Akebias can be quite vigorous. And that Akebia on its own will have no problem at all filling all that out. So I've got to be mindful again, and I've got to be careful how I allow these things to grow, because they will have to be controlled to a degree, which we should do anyway, and I do it all the time. I like to control things. I think gardeners are, by their very nature, control freaks. We're very OCD, and I am no exception to that. So that is looking absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy with it. It has took some doing because of my arm. It's been a pain. Honestly, it's been a pain. I kid you not. And the path is going to look fantastic. It's going to lift it again once we get the path in. And what I've had to do here is I've had to put a bit more turf in here. You can't really make it out on this film, but you can see it's uneven. I'm not going to mess about with it because we've got a bit of a drop to the right-hand side, and I will have to trim that up over time. So we'll let the grass knit in and tie in. We'll let the roots root in. And we see that soil, it'll not be long before the actual grass will be pushing up and through that. So I widen that just to make it a little bit easier to get down there, because originally I was going to come through this section and we was going to use this as the way through, but having pondered long and hard like I do, I decided that this would be the better method, because the reason being it was more coherent, again, we'll use that word again, to go down here, and then that would bring you down to this section here, which would look good. Now, I've also had some spare box, so we've put that there, and that kind of forms a triangular finish to this one. So over time, the whole edge is going to have that appearance, that triangular appearance, and then we have a triangle finish here, as you can see. And that's going to take a bit more time now for that to get established, but it will get established. All in good time. And although I haven't shown you the method, I'll basically go through it. We've dug holes, or I've dug an hole, 17 inches, I think, on each case. People get too carried away with how deep they put them. 17 inches is definitely deep enough to make it stable, as long as you compact it at the base. I've used no cement whatsoever. It's all soil and chalk that's gone back in there, and that's more than adequate to keep it upright. Won't cause a problem to it. Now the tops, I've screwed down on to the top of it, obviously. We've taken those notches out, screwed down with a single screw, because you don't need no more than a single screw. Okay, the single screws are 6 inches long themselves. They're more a bolt than a screw, and they will hold that down. Because remember, all the pressure is downward on those. There's nothing likely to push them off, and one screw is enough. So that's where we're at the moment. What was I saying? I think I was telling you about how I built it. Oh yeah, so we just built it. We just put those in, put the tops on, spaced it out. The spacing's not an exact science. It is what it is. And because this was already running off at a funny angle, I've had to drop the posts in to suit. Now, if you remember, the first one was what I called the Flintstones arch. It used to have 2 little bits of wood. Where's my finger? Where's my finger gone? There. So on this section here, and the other section, the opposite side, it had 2 overhangs on it, if you remember, and I've chopped those off just so that they would look more in keeping with the rest. So we'll come back up here into the gravel garden to show you more. There you go, you get a better idea there. And I think it's just fantastic. So I will be working on it again as the week goes on. I will be getting some more products to carry it on. The stone first until I get my van back, and then I will be getting the wood to put on top of these, and it'll give it another look altogether different again. So that's where we're at. Going to the garden. The garden's away quite nicely now. It's growing nicely. Things are up, you can see. Stuff's away. It is spring. You can hear the robin singing in the background. Everything is going, and I'm quite happy with it. We've had a couple of moves around, what I won't go into on this video, that one being one of them. And that's simply to give it a different look. Now, if you remember, there were some Telegraph poles in the middle of this border to dissect it. I felt didn't need those anymore. There was way too many of them. With me putting the Telegraph pole pergola up, it needed to lose those ones, so I did. It's got more than enough. So, hope you'll agree that that is quite nice. Any comments? Greatly received. And I shall talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!